Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to TradeStation. This is Michael Burke. I'm Vice President of Client Training and Education here at TradeStation, and I want to welcome you to another edition of our Art of TradeStation series. This series of events is designed to highlight some of the more powerful features and customization capabilities of the TradeStation desktop platform. And today's event, we're going to be showcasing RadarScreen, which is this incredible, unique part of TradeStation that allows you to scan and rank up to 1,000 symbols in real time to find unique trading opportunities. And I'll showcase some of the features of that, and I'll show you some custom tools that I use in my trading. So if you're new to TradeStation and you're looking to get up to speed on the TradeStation platforms, not just the desktop platform, but the web and mobile tools, TradeStation Securities is hosting a daily training channel getting started with TradeStation on youcantrade.com. So every day there's something new to learn. You can ask questions and watch archived videos on all the different TradeStation platforms. Check it out at the link there, and it's free to join. Oh, and we've just posted my 4-video learning course on technical analysis in TradeStation. This is free with the Getting Started channel, and so you can go and watch these 4 videos on how to use technical analysis within TradeStation, and tap into all of the other things that are there as well. So there's the link for Getting Started there at the bottom. Just kind of make a screenshot of that and come over to Getting Started. There's lots of great resources there. And once you're ready to really take TradeStation to that next level, you can join our new online masterclass. Here you can get all the same great training that we used to offer in our in-person masterclass, but now you get all of that training from the comfort of your home or office every day. You also get access to all of the advanced courses, technical analysis, strategy trading, easy language, things like that, all included. There are also special events, and there's other unique content that you can't get anywhere else. So check it out. There's a free 14-day trial, and then it's just $59 a month after that. So let's get started. Keep in mind that the following presentation is for educational purposes only. All of the symbols and trading ideas discussed are for educational purposes and are not recommendations. Active trading is not suitable for everyone. You can find additional disclosure information on the TradeStation website. Okay, so our agenda today is RadarScreen. So RadarScreen is this incredibly unique technology that allows you to scan up to 1,000 symbols in real time on the same technical historical indicators that you're probably using right now in a chart. So imagine, for example, you're using MACD in the chart and you're watching that on a few symbols, and you're watching for MACD to cross above or below 0. Imagine if you could do that on 1,000 symbols and get alerted when any of those 1,000 symbols cross above or below 0, all in real time, the second that it happens on any bar interval. So RadarScreen is really a unique tool in our industry and exclusive to TradeStation. So the ability to scan on technical historical indicators isn't particularly unique or new to TradeStation, but having easy language as the underlying technology that allows us to build unique scans, combinations of indicators, that is what makes RadarScreen so special. And so you have a list of symbols in RadarScreen at whatever bar interval that you're looking at for your analysis. You can put in your custom indicators and tools and sort and rank and scan for real-time opportunities. It's really an incredible tool, and I'll show you some examples here. And although I'm going to be showing you some examples of things that I look at, I hope it inspires you to think about the things that you're looking at and how can I build that indicator or that idea or that strategy into a scan in RadarScreen to find those unique opportunities that are now unique to you. And we're going to talk about the ways that we use RadarScreen with easy language to create smarter visualizations, not only in RadarScreen, but I'm going to show you some different visualizations for indicators in charting as well. So almost everything that I do at these kinds of events have a charting element and a RadarScreen element, and they work together. So I also hope that you'll take my my lead here on better visualizations of your indicators, and start building in more smart styling so that when the indicator does something, when that something happens, it pops out, so it grabs your attention. And so we'll talk about smart visualization in both charting and RadarScreen. So as I've said, this is advanced real-time symbol selection and opportunity finder. So there's so many things to trade out there, right? So how do we narrow down what symbols that we should be looking at? What symbols should we be trading? And we have a couple of tools in TradeStation that are great for that, right? We have the global scanner, which is not real time, but it allows you to put some filters around a large list of symbols and narrow it down to a subset of symbols that becomes a watch list. And then that watch list goes into RadarScreen, and RadarScreen, finds those symbols that you should be paying attention to right now. And that was the purpose of creating RadarScreen, and I'm going to show you how you can integrate that into your trading. So the reason this works is because each row in RadarScreen is a chart. So think about that for a second. You've got a chart, you can see the data historically, but each row in RadarScreen is also a chart. You can set it to any interval, have as much historical data in that row as necessary to calculate your indicators on that symbol. It doesn't have to be one indicator. You can have multiple indicators applied to that row and that symbol, and at any bar interval. So any of the symbols on our system at any bar interval, time-based interval, each row is a chart and calculates that. Now, you're not looking at the historical record like you are in the chart. What you're looking at in RadarScreen is what's happening on the last bar in the chart. So that's what we mean by real-time scanning and real-time ranking, is that you're actually looking at the values of all of those indicators on all of those symbols on the last bar in real time. So each row is a chart. It has access to historical data. It can be set to any bar interval. RadarScreen has a number of pre-built symbol lists that you can tap into, not just major market indexes like QQQ or SPX. You can actually tap into our Reuters database of industry groups. You can create your own custom symbol list. A lot of times what I do is that I'll find a symbol list on the internet somewhere. Maybe it's a list of ETFs, maybe it's a list of something, whatever it is. I can copy that into a text file and then highlight those symbols and just paste them right into RadarScreen, and then create a custom symbol list that I can access whenever I need it. So finding opportunities in RadarScreen is the process of sorting and ranking. So if you have 1,000 symbols calculating MACD, you can't have all 1,000 symbols on the screen at the same time, obviously. So we have a couple of different features to manage all of those symbols. One is that you can simply sort your list of symbols by an alert criteria, or by a value that you're calculating inside of your indicator, typically an alert type criteria, right? And so those sort to the top, and then you can see those symbols that are most likely candidates for some kind of trading. Then you're going to go look at those symbols one by one in the chart to see if it's actually a trading opportunity. But managing all of this analysis is done with sorting and ranking. We also have the ability to filter the symbols in the list based on a criteria. So instead of having all of those symbols visible at the same time, you can set a filter criteria at the top of RadarScreen and say, only show me those symbols that are doing this. And you can set up a criteria there at the top of the window on each page of RadarScreen. And that helps as well. And you can have multiple criteria for that, kind of like Scanner, where I can say, I only want to look at symbols that are alerting, that have this particular percent change, that have this amount of volume so far today, that kind of thing. So you can get incredibly deep in the way that you create a system for finding symbols that you're going to trade today. So in TradeStation, we're going to go to the app selector in the upper left, and we're going to select RadarScreen. So a little navigation here while we're still in PowerPoint. The symbol column on the far left is where you will type in symbols or add symbol lists, and in the symbol column is where you set the row interval. So there's an interval column right next to that you can see right here, but that column is just informational. It's just reporting what the interval is for that row. To set the interval, we're going to either right click on the symbol column heading. I'll show you this when we get into TradeStation. And there'll be a time frame where we can change the interval for all the symbols. But you can also change the time frame or the interval for an individual row or for a group of rows. So it's all one or a group. It can be whatever you want. At the top, you can see that filtering capability where you can select the criteria, and the symbols will only display that meet that criteria. At the bottom left-hand corner of RadarScreen, there are tabs. These are additional pages to the same window, so you can create a watch list of stocks and futures and FX, all in the same RadarScreen window in your workspace. So here, you'll notice that the relative performance indicator that I have in this screenshot has multiple columns. So those equate to plots in a charting indicator. So each plot in a charting indicator is a column in RadarScreen. And you can double click on any of those little subplots there and sort and rank that list of symbols by that criteria. And if you want to add additional indicators or columns, you can click the little plus sign. There's about 60 or 70 or 80 what we call quote columns. These are snapshot fields of things like the last price, the percent change, bid and ask prices, volume. These are not historical indicators. And there's about 80 of them that are built in. And then there are all of the technical historical indicators that work in charting that also can work in RadarScreen. And this includes show me's and paint bars. All of those technical tools that you put into a chart, you can put in here and sort and rank by those values. All right, so there's some operational issues with RadarScreen you need to be aware of. So first of all, when you put an indicator into RadarScreen, you want to make sure that it matches the indicator in charting. And the way that RadarScreen works as far as memory management goes is that it looks at the indicator and it figures out how many bars of history does it need to calculate that indicator. So if you're using a moving average and that moving average is a 50-bar moving average, RadarScreen knows to load 51 bars so that it can calculate that average on the last bar. But if you put an exponential moving average into RadarScreen, that's a little different because exponential moving averages have a recursive calculation. In other words, they calculate the current bar based on what happened on the previous bar. And so in order for that to smooth out to the same value in charting, exponential moving averages need a lot more data. So if you have a 50-bar exponential moving average, in order for that to match charting, you probably need 350 bars of data in order for those two indicators to match. So RadarScreen allows you to add additional history to that particular indicator so that they can match up between RadarScreen and charting. So always make sure that that's happening. And that can be done on the General tab of the indicator that's inside RadarScreen. I'll show you that here in a second. Finally, probably the most important aspect, operational aspect of RadarScreen is that you can only have 1,000 symbols connected to our historical data server, which means that across all of your workspaces, across all of your radar screens, you can only have 1,000 connections to our data service. So that's a lot. I know that sounds like a big number, but you'd be surprised if you have a radar screen on several different workspaces, each of those looking at a couple hundred symbols, you can get to 1,000 very quickly. So you have to manage those workspaces so that only 1,000 symbols are connected historically to TradeStation at any one time. And you'll get errors, and indicators will stop working when you as soon as you try to put in 1,001 symbols. That 1,001th symbol is not going to calculate because you're going to get an error. You're going to see a little E in the corner of the cell in RadarScreen. It's going to say, I'm sorry, I can't get historical data for this symbol. You know, you've already gone over your 1,000 symbols. Oh, and finally, like I said, you can put just about anything into RadarScreen. Indicators, show me, paint bars. You can't put strategies into RadarScreen. So RadarScreen does not understand the logic of buying and selling within a strategy. So if you have a strategy that you want to put into RadarScreen, all you have to do is convert it into an indicator, take those same calculations, those same rules, and put those into RadarScreen. All right, getting the two indicators to match. So I have I put an exponential moving average in charting. I put an exponential moving average based indicator in RadarScreen. They're not matching. How do I get them to match? So we're going to right click on the column heading of that indicator, and we're going to go to Studies and Edit Studies for all symbols. This will take you to the Customize Indicator dialog, and you're going to click on the General tab there at the top left. And then here you're going to click the checkbox that says Add Additional Data, and you're going to add some number of bars here. Now keep in mind, RadarScreen has, you may have hundreds of symbols in this window, so every time you add additional data, that adds memory overhead. Now it's not something your computer can't handle, but I'm just in case you have other things running as well, you've got a heavy load on your computer. So I guess my point here, let me get to the point, Mike. The point is here, don't add just a lot of bars here that you don't need. So don't set this to 10,000 thinking, oh, that'll be enough. Not 10,000 bars times 1,000 symbols is 10 million, 10 million bars. So, or I think that's right. So set this to just what you need. Try 300. If they don't match, try 400. And you'll get to a point where they match. Okay, so I have 5 concepts to show you. Each of them comes with an indicator for charting and an indicator for RadarScreen. There's a workspace that works in TradeStation 10, and it comes with the open easy language code, so you can see exactly how I calculated all of these, how I structured them, how the smart styling works. And you can use these as templates for your indicators and the things that, that you care about. So, for example, I'm using MACD on one of my indicators. Maybe you have something else that you're using. Maybe you're using Williams %R, or you're using some other indicator that plots along the bottom of the graph. You can use my MACD, see how I've structured it, just plug in your calculations. All the other things will work, and it'll give you basically the same look and feel as my MACD, but now it's your indicator. So I want you to think about what kind of things would I put into RadarScreen or charting using kind of this framework. So that's the idea. So we're going to look at MACD. We're going to look at the classic TradeStation key reversal. One of my favorite trending concepts, DMI, DMI plus, DMI minus from Wells Wilder. I'm going to show you an interesting take on RSI. So instead of having RSI in the chart, I actually do a stochastic of RSI. I don't know if you've worked with RSI at all. It's the Relative Strength Index, again a Wells Wilder concept, and basically it's like stochastic. It looks for overbought, oversold. It's an oscillator, but over time that indicator is kind of smoothed out. I don't know if it's because there's a lot of people using it, or the markets are just a little more volatile now than when Wells Wilder wrote that in the 70s. So the markets are different. So the indicator doesn't seem as relevant to me today as it was back when he wrote it. But it becomes really a great indicator if I take the stochastic of RSI and use that as the indicator. So now, instead of having to worry about RSI hitting high and low values, in the oscillator, that's all taken care of by stochastic, because stochastic just looks at RSI. So it's kind of an interesting idea. There's also a concept out on the internet. If you want to learn more about this concept, it's a derivation of stochastic. So if you were to Google stochastic of stochastic, that's the same concept here. This is stochastic of RSI. And I'm going to show you a sector score tool that is in development. I haven't really flushed it out completely, but I'm going to give you the beta of it. It has the core calculations right now, and I think it's kind of useful in its current state, but I'm trying to flush that out into a more robust, a more advanced tool. But I'll show you the tool that I've got so far. So for those of you who have maybe come in a little bit late, I'm going to push the zip file again. I don't know if Nico may have already done that, but if not, there it is. That has all the easy language, all the workspaces, and my PowerPoint. So if you haven't downloaded that yet, there you go. All right, let's go to TradeStation. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is start out with MACD. This is the kind of the core concept that I use for all of my tools in RadarScreen. So this will once you understand what I'm doing here with MACD, it'll be easy to kind of figure out what I'm doing with all of these other tools. So first of all, what I've done with MACD here is I've just given it a little bit of smart styling. So when it's the concept is the same. I use a little bit different inputs for the moving averages, but you can change that back to the default if you want. I use 13, 34, and 8. I think the default is 12, 26, and 9. So you can make that whatever you want to. But I'm just using a little bit different values for those inputs. So the concept is the same. When it's above 0, that's bullish. When it's below 0, that's bearish. And for smart styling, what I've done here is that when the momentum of MACD is starting to go back towards 0, I shade the color there, kind of warning me that maybe that trend is starting to fade a little bit, or the strength of the trend might be getting to fade. So I use a smart styling there. And I do the same thing here when it's below 0. So when the MACD is below 0 and it is moving away from 0, it's brighter, and when it's moving towards 0, it's a little bit darker. And just for fun, I put these arrows on the chart showing you where it's crossing above and below 0. Sometimes that's not particularly easy to see, depending on the scaling. And sometimes MACD will just barely cross above 0, very close to 0, and it'll be difficult to see. So these little arrows kind of add a little bit of clarity to where it's crossing 0. Makes it much easier. So if I double click on the indicator itself, that takes me to the Customize Indicator dialog. And I really haven't changed anything here from the MACD that comes with TradeStation, except the styling that you see here. Here are the inputs, so you can change those to whatever you want. But the reason I'm showing you this is that you can adjust the arrow. So if you don't like these arrows, just for fun, I gave you the ability to change the size of the arrow. And there's a few styles. You can try like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each one of these is a slightly different style. Let's try 2. So there's 2. So you can pick a style there that you like. I clearly have too much time on my hands to put in all of these customizations, but it's fun, right? This is trading's supposed to be fun. And so here you can change that to whatever you'd like to change that to. So again, remember that these indicators will work on any symbol. They'll work as long as you can put a symbol in a chart and in a radar screen. These tools will work. They are time-based, and you can use them on anything. In fact, let's look at RadarScreen here for a second now. So that's the idea, and that's typically what I do with most of my indicators that plot like that. Is I have some kind of smart styling, try to use arrows if I can to make it really easy to see whether or not there's a cross or not. All right, so let's go to RadarScreen. So the color of the MACD is here. So if it's bullish or bearish, it's blue or red. And one of the things that I was thinking of doing is this shading that I do when the momentum is heading back towards 0. I was thinking of doing that here in RadarScreen as well, using a darker color. It's not so easy to see, and this window is pretty busy as it is, so I'm not sure how useful that would be, but that's something you could try. We could change that bullish to a darker blue if it's heading towards 0. So that's something to think about there. So that mode of the market is the color of MACD over here, bullish or bearish. And then the center column is telling us whether it's crossing below or crossing above 0. So this is what I think is just incredible about RadarScreen. I have MACD here on 150 symbols, And by sorting on this alert column, I can instantly see what symbols are currently bullish or bearish opportunities with MACD on these symbols. So for example, here we have a couple of bullish here. This is Qualcomm. If I click on Qualcomm, notice the windows are linked together. That's these icons up here. I can link the windows by symbol or by interval. And as long as the colors match, they're linked. So here's Qualcomm. There you can see it's crossing above 0. There's the arrow. And we can look at that and see whether that's a trading opportunity or not. Now, think about that for a second. We were able to find a trading opportunity on Qualcomm with MACD with only one chart. That's the amazing thing here, right? Okay, so finally, the last element to most of my radar screen indicators is this column called bars ago. So bars ago is how many bars has it been based on this interval since it crossed, since we had an alert. Notice that all the alerts today have 0 bars because they're crossing right now. But if I double click on bars ago, I can see which symbols alerted yesterday. So AMT alerted yesterday. There you can see the arrow 1 bar ago, and that would not have been a good trade today. But that's the idea. You would have found that opportunity. Here's Costco. Here's UPS. So UPS was crossed above. That would have been a nice trade. So you go long UPS yesterday, it gapped up. So, but how would you find those opportunities if you didn't have RadarScreen? That's the question, right? So bars ago is how many bars has it been since we got that alert? All right, so I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. So here, I just want to kind of show you, I'm hitting the insert key a couple of times. Here you can type in any symbol. So you can add symbols to these workspaces. I have my built-in list, which I'll talk about here in a second, but you can add any symbol to here. It instantly will calculate the MACD, and it'll show it on the chart. You can also add symbol lists here. So here, if I highlight this, I can go up to Data, and I can say Add Symbol List, and there's a bunch of symbol lists that are built into RadarScreen. Here, there's Reuters industry groups. You can see all the industry groups. There's TradeStation lists, which include all the index components and indexes. So any of these, you can just kind of highlight that list. It loads the symbols, you click OK, and it adds them to the window. But just as easily, you can highlight a list of symbols from a web page or type them in and just paste them and copy them right into RadarScreen and add them to the window. So super easy to get symbols into the window. So in this window, in fact, all of my workspaces, this is typically my symbol list for stocks. I have the ETFs, and you might want to add some additional index ETFs up here if that you track. I have the spider sectors. These are all the different spider industry groups. And then I have my big volume, big value stocks. So every month or so, I'll do a scan in our scanner, and I'll look for stocks that are trading more than 10 million shares and have more than $1 billion in market cap. And I'll compile that list and put it in here and remove duplicates. Usually I'll remove low-cost stocks too. I typically will remove stocks that are less than $5. So, but the point is, the point here is that you'll have your methodology for adding symbols to the window, and that's the idea. Okay. Also notice the tabs down here at the bottom. So I have 2 pages of this RadarScreen. One page is stocks, and the other is futures. So if you're a futures trader, here I've listed all of the futures that you can trade on TradeStation, and our MACD indicators here. So like right now, the 5-year bond gave a buy today. We can see that there. And if we sort on bars ago, here we can see that the 10-year alerted yesterday. So that's the idea. All right, finally, RadarScreen housekeeping here. You'll notice that all of these symbols are daily, and the interval column is just reporting the interval, but the actual interval is set on the row, on the symbol. So if I double click, for example, right there in that one cell, I can change the interval. I can make this 5 minutes. There it is. That's now a 5-minute MACD, not a daily. If I click on that, the chart changes to 5 minutes, and now that's a 5-minute MACD. go back to daily. I can do that for a list of symbols. I can highlight a bunch of symbols, go to time frame. These are 30-minute. So just those symbols become 30-minute. And I can look at MACD here in RadarScreen at 30 minutes and in the chart. Or I can right-click on the symbol column heading and go to time frame and change all the symbols at one time. Now they're all 60-minute charts. And if I click on a symbol like QQQ, that's MACD at 60 minutes and MACD here. So here the utilities, the spider utility is giving us a signal in MACD on the 60-minute MACD. So that's the idea. I'm going to right click, go to time frame and daily. And that is basically that's basically all of the concepts that you need to know about RadarScreen and the indicators that I'm going to show you. So all of the things that I do are basically, you know, that I just showed you. All right, so let's look at the key reversal. So the key reversal is one of the first, well, let me backtrack. One of the very first webinars that I ever went to regarding TradeStation back in the 90s, this is a long time ago. The founders of the company were traveling to trade shows. They were showing the technology. They were showing how easy it was to write indicators in easy language. And so the concept that they showed was the key reversal concept. It's a concept that I've used ever since. And it's a simple pattern where you get a significant low, but the close of that bar closes above the close of the previous bar. So significant low, higher close. And that's basically a key reversal. And you can see each of those places that occurred. So this is, let's go to the spider here. So this is a daily SPY, and you can see every place where that key reversal occurred. It doesn't always pick the top or bottom, but it shows you what the mode of the market is beyond that signal. So here in an uptrend, right, we didn't get a lot of key reversals. We didn't get a lot of pullback key reversals. We see a lot of these false signals. So by itself, the key reversal is great if the market's moving sideways. If the market's trending, then you need a filter that tells you that the market's trending and that you shouldn't be taking those key reversal trades. So here, if we look in RadarScreen, we can sort, see what alerts we're getting here. So Disney is a key reversal today, kind of a pullback from that high earlier in the month. Let's look at, this is Siri. So we've gotten two key reversals back to back. Sometimes the first one isn't the good signal, sometimes it's the second signal. How about futures? Platinum. So this has been on a tear since the dollar's been in decline, and today we got a huge range bar. We've had a couple of huge range bars here for platinum since March, but this was these last 2 days have been pretty big range bars, and there's a key reversal right there. So one of the things that I do when I'm looking at indicators like this, in fact all indicators, one of the beauties of putting an indicator like this in the chart and seeing everywhere my rules are occurring historically is I can see whether the last time worked. How many of the last key reversal downs that occurred here, how many of those worked? Or at least there was an opportunity to get something out of the market. This one was a bad one, obviously. But a number of those aren't bad, right? So that's what I look at. I kind of do a visual back test, you know, and that's the idea kind of behind charts in general anyway, right? If you think about it, the whole point of a chart is to have an indicator on the chart and then look back historically and see, you know, where the price goes when the indicator does something that you're looking for. And that's how strategies are developed. You look at indicators or combinations of indicators on the chart, and you start building rules. If this happens and this happens, that's where I want to go long or short. And you can visually test that. And if it looks good visually, then you want to put that into a strategy and actually test it with buy and sell rules, entry and exit rules. So that's the key reversal. The bullish or bearish is based on the last key reversal. So it's in a bullish or bearish mood based on what the last key reversal was. And again, the bars ago works exactly the same way. This is the silver ETF. It gave a bearish signal a couple of bars ago. You can see that there. None of these would have been very good. All right, so that's key reversal. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that one of the very first books on technical analysis I ever read was the Wells Wilder book, New Concepts in Technical Analysis. And these were tools that he developed in the 70s. And this is when there weren't computers, obviously. He was doing all of this work in spreadsheets. So you would have a spreadsheet of daily closes, highs, lows, opens, that kind of thing. And then on every row, you'd have that open, high, low, close, and then you'd start making calculations based on the last X number of rows. It was quite an accomplishment to create a whole library of technical tools using spreadsheets and handwriting the data in. But going through his book, when I went through it, I had TradeStation, I had Easy Language. And so I used his formulas, and even though TradeStation already had these indicators, I used his formulas to see if I could match what was in his spreadsheets and what was in TradeStation. And that was a great study in technical analysis and Easy Language, and that kind of got me started. One of his concepts is DMI plus and DMI minus. And typically you see that as two lines in a subgraph. And they cross each other. When DMI plus crosses above DMI minus, that's bullish, and vice versa, it becomes bearish. So instead of having the two lines on the chart, I love histograms, and I also love the ability to shade the histogram depending on the momentum. So if it's heading toward or away from zero. So same concept as MACD, except now this is DMI plus and DMI minus. This is also a trending concept like MACD, and it shows you those points where it crosses above or below zero, which is actually the difference between DMI plus and DMI minus, which is that same cross concept. It's very similar to MACD, that concept. And so here in RadarScreen, we have our DMI indicator showing us the bullish and bearish mode. Any alert. So right now we're getting Amgen is showing a bearish trade here, so we can see that. Kind of look back and see whether these signals were strong or not. And so that shows us an opportunity there. Let's see here. Let's go to futures. So here gasoline is showing a bearish signal. Kind of a weird day in gasoline today. We were looking very weak and it came all the way back. So, you know, that big tail there is buying pressure. So we'll have to see what happens tomorrow to see if that buying pressure evaporates or it keeps it that was a fake out and it's still going higher. So we'll check that out tomorrow. So that's DMI. And again, if you're not familiar with these indicators, there's a wealth of information on all of these tools on the internet, of course. In the Getting Started channel, I just posted a 4-video technical analysis and TradeStation course that covers a lot of these ideas and concepts and reinforces how to use them in TradeStation. Okay, so the next two concepts are new to this series. So I've done the Art of TradeStation for RadarScreen. I try to do it about every 6 months, update the tools, try to introduce some new ideas into this presentation. So today, the two new ideas that I'm incorporating into this presentation are my stochastic RSI. So it looks just like RSI or stochastic, right? We have an overbought, oversold oscillator here where you can set those levels. I have them set at 70 and 30 because this is stochastic of RSI. So really the core idea here is RSI. And we're just using stochastic to enhance the movement of RSI. So instead of having a fixed overbought, oversold, when you use stochastic to calculate, we're using stochastic to calculate that overbought oversold level, so it's dynamic. So when RSI calms down, stochastic still calculates that overbought oversold oscillator at the correct level. So this is a dynamic way of calculating RSI using stochastic. I love the idea. And as I said, if you Google stochastic on stochastic, it's the same concept, but I prefer RSI. So this is stochastic of RSI. And again, you can see I'm using arrows here to identify those crossing points. So like a lot of oscillators, when the oscillator moves into the overbought or oversold area, the market tends to trend for a while and it stays overbought or oversold for a while. If you use Bollinger Bands, you've seen that all the time, right? The bars cross above Bollinger Band and then they stay above the band as the market trends up. And then at some point, the market comes back down inside of the Bollinger Bands. That's the signal. That's the reverse of the trend. And same thing here. I wait for the stochastic, the stochastic of RSI. I wait for that to cross back into the middle of the channel here, in between the overbought oversold oscillating points. So that's what I'm waiting for, just as a confirmation. And keep in mind that not just this indicator, but a lot of the indicators that you look at, you also want to see momentum in the price bars in the direction that you want to trade. So a lot of times you'll get a signal like this that says we want to go long, but until I get some confirmation in the price here, I want to see a higher close. I want to see the close greater than the open. I want to see some momentum in my direction before I make that trade. Just because we get this signal doesn't mean I'm going to take the trade right away. The market might be trending down. We might be making lower lows, or higher. We might be making lower highs. We might be making lower closes. So just because it's telling me to buy here, if the prices don't confirm that signal, I'm not going to make that trade. So try to have some kind of momentum or some kind of confirmation that the prices are moving in the same direction that the signal is you're getting here. So here we can see the RadarScreen indicator shows us the bullish or bearish mode since the last signal here. And you can see the alert column is showing us some alerts here. Let's see if we see something interesting here. So these are the spider sector ETFs. We're going to be talking about these in a minute here. So this is energy. I think that's energy, right? Yes. And so we're getting our RSI is telling us that we are overbought and we're crossing into the middle there. So what happened the last time that happened? Was that a good signal the last time? Yes. This one not so much. This one not so much. This was a good one. Well, this one doesn't count. That was the coronavirus one. That's not bad. So you can go through the chart and kind of see, how strong has that signal been. And of course, we want price confirmation as well. Sort by bars ago. One of the things that you might think about here, notice that the Procter & Gamble has not crossed for a lot of bars. Whenever you see that, there's two things going on here. One is the market's either consolidating or the market is making a run in one direction or the other. In this case, it's a bullish run. So don't just look for alerts. Look for the opposite of an alert, something that has not alerted in a long time, and take a look and see what that's doing. And finally, my spaghetti charts here. So I'm going to start with RadarScreen in this case. So in RadarScreen, I'm just looking at the spider sectors. So I've got some general indexes up here, but those aren't really part of this. I'm looking at the spider sectors at daily and daily. And I left it daily and daily because I want you to learn how to set that. You're going to highlight those. We don't need daily and daily. Those are the same thing. I'm going to highlight these. I'm going to right click and I'm going to change the time frame for those to 60 minutes. So now I'm looking at the spider sectors at 60 minutes and the spider sectors at daily. And those are my two charts over here. So I have the daily chart and a 60-minute chart. And so here, what we're doing is we're measuring the performance of each of these symbols, and then we're using the RadarScreen to sort and rank by that performance. And I'm calling that performance score. And by the way, if I right-click up here and I go to the inputs, there's a score length. I have it set to 13 bars. So that's a 13 bar % change. And that is what we're using to calculate the performance of each of these sectors against each other. So this is a relative performance idea. So if I sort by the score, I can see which sectors are the strongest and which ones are the weakest. So here we can see the tech sector is strongest. That makes perfect sense if you think about it in the last month. Here we're just looking back 13 bars. 13, in this case, we're looking at 13 60-minute bars. So this is on the 60-minute chart. So this is this chart here. This shows all of the sectors. There's 11 symbols in here. And here you can see, at the top of that chart, you can see the legend for the colors. So XLK is red, right? You see that XLK is the strongest over here in RadarScreen on the 60-minute symbol. If I come over here to the chart, if I look at all the symbols on the last bar, which one is the strongest? The red one, which is XLK. So you can read the legend right there. The weakest one is energy, of course. So here, energy is XLE. That's the green. And we can see that right down here. So that's the weakest. So what I look for is I look for these sectors to cross above and below 0 to change the mode. So when it crosses above 0, that's my bullish signal. Here we can see that here for XLK on the daily chart. So here, notice that on the daily chart, all of the sectors are bullish. And that's because the market's been trending up for the last month. So of course, these are all going to have positive scores. None of them have a negative % change over the last 13 days. So, but XLK, which is our best one on the 60-minute, is the worst one on the daily. But it's trending in the right direction because it's been doing well on the recently in the last 60-minute chart. So we can see it just crossed above 0. It did that 6 bars ago, and so we can see that. No, I'm sorry. Here it crossed above 0 today. Oh my goodness! So that I missed that completely. So here that new bullish cross occurred today, and there you can see it crossing above 0 today. The strongest spider sector on the daily is the XLI. This is industrials, but you'll notice they're kind of cluttered here. So one of the things that when I was looking at this earlier today, is it's kind of hard to see who's leading who because they are all kind of bunched together. But that's what RadarScreen is for. RadarScreen shows you very clearly which is the strongest and which one there is the weakest. And that's the idea. If you double click here in the chart indicator, again, you can change that score length right there. So 13 is kind of a short-term % change. If you're a longer-term trader, you can make that, 30 or 50 bars. If you're an intraday trader, you might leave it at 13, and then instead of looking at 60 minutes, maybe you're looking at 15 minutes. So you're an intraday trader. You want to trade the strongest or stronger or weakest sector during the day. You can make these 15-minute charts or 5-minute charts and use this tool to identify those opportunities. So that's what I have for you today. And again, I have to tell you, I really appreciate you spending this time with me. And I hope to see you at another upcoming TradeStation event. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.